Hello, welcome to another episode of Gardenside Chats. Lava, stop it. With me, Carrie. We're out here in my garden. I got my sidekick, Lava, just my cat, out here as well. And today we're going to talk about persimmons, which is a very timely topic because it's raining persimmons right now, if you have any persimmon trees in your neighborhood. So, let's get going. Alright, so if you've never seen a persimmon, this is what they look like. Persimmons, delicious. So this is a persimmon. They kind of have the shape of a tomato. They're can you see this? They're very squishy. Very soft on the inside. Very thin skin, lots of seeds. That's kind of the thing with persimmons, is they have lots of seeds. We don't eat, I don't think a lot of people know a lot about persimmons because they don't ship very well. So I don't think they fit into our kind of mass transit shipped food system. As you can see, they're super soft, so they just bruise really easily. And like I said, they have really thin skin, so it breaks really easily. And then once it breaks, spoilage and fruit flies and stuff like that. So I don't think they're the right fruit for shipping across the country. I think often if you see persimmons in the store, they're either locally grown or maybe dried. Get dried persimmons, or somehow processed, like frozen or made into a jam or something like that. These persimmons came from a tree just down the street of my house. And so I wanted to share a little bit about growing persimmon trees, eating persimmon fruit, and that kind of thing. So I'm going to put the persimmons down. So persimmons are not native to the United States. I think they're native to China, but they grow really well here, and they have been cultivated for fruit production over the last couple hundred years, starting in the late 1800s. So these are not native. This is a medium-sized variety. They can get much larger. They can also be a little bit smaller. But this is a pretty, decent-sized one. They grow really well in our region in Missouri. They can kind of just grow. They can be naturalized in our environment. So they can just kind of grow on the side of lakes. I've seen them in city parks, just definitely not planted by the Parks Department, but growing on the side of lakes. They like kind of wet, moist soil. We have them growing at the agriculture park. We have planted some cultivars, which are just bred varieties for fruit production. But there's also a stand of persimmons already there before we even started transitioning the park into what is now the agriculture park. So there are some small fruit-bearing persimmon trees out there right now on the northern border of the park, right next to kind of where the property meets the Aslan property. It's right off the sidewalk there. So go get you some persimmons if there's any that are ripe. And we'll talk about how to figure out what a ripe persimmon is in a second. But let's continue talking about the trees. So the trees are medium large size trees. The tree that this came from is about 20 feet tall and is a relatively young tree. The trees can, depending on the cultivated variety you're talking about, can get to be about 60 feet tall. So it can be a pretty decent sized tree. And they are dioecious, which means there is a male tree and a female tree, and you really need both to make a persimmon fruit. We have a male persimmon tree at the Veterans Urban Farm, and it has obviously never made fruit for us, but it rains down flowers every year. So if you're going to buy a persimmon tree, I don't know if the nurseries can identify early on if it's male or female, or if you just want to buy a couple, but just know most persimmon trees come as a male and female, and if you want fruit, you want a female. If you don't necessarily care about the fruit and just think it's a pretty tree, which it is, a nice looking tree, you can get either. But you need both to make persimmon fruit. They're pretty easy to grow here. They don't have a lot of pest pressure. You don't really need to prune them. It's kind of easy peasy, which is, why they're really nice to grow and why they've like kind of naturalized in our environment, because they just grow well here. If you decide to plant one in your yard, you want to make sure to plant it in a place that has average to moist soil. Like I said, they do like to live in like kind of moister environments, which is why you see them kind of on the edges of ponds or near streams, or in our case, we planted them in the rainwater detention basin, but they were also already growing around other detention basins before we kind of started developing the park. So if you want to plant persimmon trees, this is a good time of year to plant fruit trees. You can get persimmon trees from Forest Keeling if you go to their nursery. They're hard to order like online or through a catalog, but that's a good local or regional, they're in St. Louis, nursery to get good quality persimmon trees from. That's where we got our persimmon trees. I'm not sure what other nurseries you can get them from, but Forest Keeling does have them. They have several different cultivated varieties, so they have good selection. So planting them this year, oftentimes nurseries run out of stock at this time, so you might have to wait till spring. But if you plant them in the spring, it's usually best to plant trees before they really start doing a lot of like leaf growth and that kind of thing, because that just makes it a little more stressful on them. So we're talking like early spring, like March, April would be a great time to plant them if you can't get any persimmons in the ground right now. And like I said, it can be a pretty good sized tree, so you want to space it out, so it can get up to 60 feet tall, depending on what variety you have. They don't get quite that wide, but definitely like plan for having that mature sized tree in your yard, if you choose to plant a persimmon. Even if you just get it, and it's like 3 feet tall and like an inch thick, it will get bigger. All right, so that's, in a nutshell, how to grow a persimmon tree, or really just like a little bit about persimmon trees. Let's talk about the fruit, which is why most people plant persimmon trees. So the fruit, again, it's very sweet, very like sweet smelling. Like when I have these on my counter, and I walk into the kitchen, I can immediately smell them, like really ripe bananas. Like you can smell them. It's kind of like how a persimmon is. So the thing about persimmons is you need to make sure that you're eating it when it's ripe. Why is that? Well, that is because if you eat them slightly unripe, even just, very slightly unripe, they have this really astringent quality, and for me, it like sucks all the spit out of my mouth, and it is just really unpleasant. So, but if you get them fully ripe, that doesn't exist. It's very sweet, it's very soft, gooey flesh, kind of like the consistency of stringy baby food, maybe, and it's just kind of packed full of seeds. But how do you know if it's fully ripe? Well, you wait till it falls off the tree. Usually, you get the best fruit right after they fall off the tree. So you have to wait. This fruit totally ripens. It's on its little branch, totally ripens. It gets so ripe that it falls off. And if you catch it, you can pick it up, and that's the perfectly ripe fruit. So if you have a persimmon tree that you are growing to eat the persimmons from, oftentimes when it's fruiting, what you'll do is you'll go out at least once a day, maybe multiple times a day, to pick up fallen fruit, and also to clean off out of the ground, or off of the ground, I should say, any fruit that like got really messed up when it fell, or maybe got stepped on, or something like that, just so you're not also attracting like flies and rodents and things. So you're kind of keeping the area like clean and tidy around where the persimmons are falling, because this is what you're going to eat. So if it's like full of like, if it's kind of a mess, you're kind of eating from a mess. So usually if like you kind of keep it tidy and visit it frequently while it's fruiting, you get the best quality fruit. Because, just like any fruit, when it falls off, it's going to continue to kind of ripen off of the plant a little bit. And so then if you let it sit there for a couple days or something, it will become overripe, which doesn't have that astringent quality, but just doesn't taste very good. So visiting them every day and picking the ones off of the ground that aren't, majorly messed up, which is interesting because, these can fall from like 15 feet or longer, but this one has a slight crack in the skin. Can you see? Yeah, you can see that maybe. Slight crack in the skin, but that's all it has from that fall. And I guess that's why maybe they're so like soft and squishy, is they can like take that drop pretty well. So another thing I wanted to say about, since you eat the persimmons off the ground, I think it's also important to consider how you maintain your lawn around the persimmon tree. So if you have like a lot of chemicals sprayed on your lawn to make it like really uniform and monoculture turf grass or whatever, you're eating the persimmons off of that grass. So I think it's worthwhile to consider, if you're planting persimmon trees with the intention of eating the persimmons off of the tree, to consider how you treat the grass around it, because you'll be eating directly off of that. Your food will be touching that grass. So the tree that had this, nothing is like sprayed on the grass. It's just mowed periodically, and because grass isn't growing very fast right now, it probably hasn't been mowed in a little bit. So yeah, you just want to be cognizant of that. Take that in consideration. Because it's a big tree, and there's a short season for ripe persimmons. What a lot of people do is they freeze persimmons for the winter time, and they're really easy to freeze. They have a great consistency for freezing and then reconstituting by thawing, because it's like so soft already. You just put it through a food mill, and then freeze that pulp, and then you can unfreeze it, later in the year or in the winter next spring, and use it, in breakfasts or like as a jelly or something. Because it is a lot at once, especially if you have a mature tree. It's a lot of persimmons at once. Another interesting note about persimmons is that there is this kind of like winter weather prediction method you can use with persimmon seeds. I don't know how accurate it is, but I ate a persimmon earlier to be able to show you this. So persimmon seeds are supposed to be able to identify what kind of winter we're going to have. So what you do is you eat a persimmon, and the goo of the inside of the persimmon, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this seed. The goo from the inside of the persimmon kind of sticks to the seeds, so you get all that goo off the seeds, and then you get seeds that look, I'm putting it back together, kind of like this. Well, definitely like this. This is a persimmon seed. So the fruit is full of these sized seeds. Maybe like 5 seeds in a fruit that's this, that's this big. So it's a lot of seeds. So I just kind of put it in my mouth, and then full of seeds. So this is the persimmon seed. So then it's kind of still got like the pulp on it and stuff. So you either like wash that off or bite it off. I don't know, whatever. And then you cut it like this way. So you cut it. So that's what I did. And then this is what it looks like on the inside. Can you see this? I hope so. Wait, where's the camera? Okay, so you can kind of see in the middle, especially this one, in the middle, there's like that little white spoon-shaped thing. So it's supposed to look like a spoon. Hopefully it looks like a spoon to you. So this little white part that looks like the spoon, those are the cotyledons, which are the first leaves that the seed kind of throws out when it germinates. And they're non-photosynthesizing leaves, so they don't make energy from the sun. light, but they're like packed full of energy that gets the plant like up and through that life stage so that they can start putting on their first true leaves that take energy from the sun and make sugars and stuff from it and feed themselves with it. So these are like these little like white, the spoon is like the little white cotyledons, or they would be green if they germinated. And that's like food for the young plant right as it emerges out of the ground. So this is a spoon. This is what a spoon looks like in a persimmon seed. The cotyledons can look 3 different ways by like folklore in a persimmon seed. So they can look like a spoon, which kind of symbolizes, in my mind, at least this is how I remember it, it symbolizes a shovel. So it's supposed to indicate a really wet year, or as far as like winter goes, like a heavy snow year. And then there's a knife. So it doesn't have like that little bulbous part on the top, but it's just like a straight up like little slit, which means maybe drier in the winter, but very cold, like biting, like cutting like a knife. And then there's a fork. So instead of like the little bulbous thing on top, it's got some prongs, and that is just mild winter. So I did this to 2 seeds. This is 1 seed, but I did this to 2 seeds, and I got spoons both times. So maybe it will be a wet, very snow-heavy winter. So I guess we'll see how that prediction goes. But that is one of the things persimmons are well known for, is the indication inside the seed as how the winter is going to go. Which, I think there's something to that, like plants and wildlife maybe kind of tune into like weather patterns that maybe we don't. So anyway, enough of that. But that's kind of the kind of like farmer's almanac like trick with persimmon seeds. All right, so well, that's all we have about persimmons. There's persimmons all over town. There's one in Fairview Park. There's one at Clary-Shy the Columbia's Agriculture Park. I've seen persimmons there's a lake off of Discovery Parkway. That's a city park. I don't remember what the lake is called. Phillips Lake. So there's persimmon trees out by that lake. There's, probably persimmons in the woods somewhere if you go on a hike this weekend. So keep your eye out for a big tree that's starting to turn, fall colors like everything else is. I wish I can remember what color it was turning, but I can't. And there'll be this all over the ground around it. While you go around like looking for ripe persimmons, look for ones that don't have a lot of tears in the skins, don't have any like discolored sections, look like nice and symmetrical, maybe have like a little shine to them in certain places, like right there, nice and bright orange, and soft. And also you can smell it. It should smell sweet and very fruity, but not like fermented at all. So give it a little smell, and then that's how you know it's right. All right. Well, thanks for joining me this evening. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions about persimmons or other like foraging type things, pawpaws are starting to ripen right now as well. That's another common foraged fruit in mid-Missouri. Please let us know. Or if you have any garden questions, more traditional like annual fruit and vegetable garden type questions, let us know. We'd love to answer them for you. I know a lot of people are winterizing their garden right now and have a lot of questions about that. So let us know if you have any questions. And with that, have a lovely weekend. Bye.